That's awesome. And what kind of platform do you use to do like a virtual lesson, right? Because one thing that
Mhm.
it makes me think about was like, even when I record sometimes, if I'm recording live, I can see kind of a short delay, for example, right? So
Right.
like, is there a certain platform that you use in order to be able to stay connected like that?
Yeah, one platform that I used was Taylor Robinson Music. They basically have a bunch of interested beginners, intermediate and advanced learners of each of any instrument really. Excuse me. Um, and then they reach out to musicians or they reach out to teachers that are signed up to that platform and they basically
Mm,
connected to. So I've done that like on a very small level for years. Like they'll just hit me up if the influx comes and I'll say yes or no and then I'll do that.
mm.
The most recent platform that I've worked with is Out School.
Out school. Okay.
Yeah, Out School. So I've been able to teach a couple of students who were like overseas, um, and definitely
Wow.
students throughout the U.S. The tricky part is the time zones. Like if I'm teaching, 8 a.m. or let's say I'm teaching 2 p.m. Well, anyone in California, that's going to be 3 hours ahead. You
Mhm.
know, then I'm teaching like maybe 4 or 5 students at one time in different time zones. If they're in
Mhm.
London, that's going to be a little bit behind versus ahead. So
Mm.
you got all those factors, playing a role. And the reason that I kind of pulled back a little bit, I love the platform and I still maintain relationships with the students, is because when it comes to promoting me, I can't necessarily redirect from that platform. I,
Okay.
I can direct to the platform, but not away from it, and
Mm.
that's a conflict for me because I got my own
Gotcha.
stuff. Yeah, yeah,
Right, right.
but I'm thankful for those platforms though.
Okay, that's awesome. And so you've been teaching people and doing the one-on-ones and also the group coaching, it seems like as well,
Right.
and going through that training as well. Man, and dealing with people across the world. That's awesome
Yeah,
that you
yeah,
even have an opportunity, a platform to be able to teach people these skills that you have, you know, through this channel, and people could be in England and in California at the same time learning from you, right? In a total different area,
yep,
you know.
yep.
So technology is definitely awesome to be able to do things like that. I know you also talked about that you do the production work as well, right?
Mhm.
And so with that, how long have you been doing the production work? And is it mainly focused on people that you've come in contact with through like the church environment, working with them, or kind of how have you come across the clientele that you have with the music production?
A variety of ways, man. Yeah, music production is needed. Like if we're thinking about the intro of a movie, the first thing that we hear is a score, and
Hmm.
sometimes you don't hear an orchestral score. You might just hear a beat drop. You know what I'm saying? Like think about Black Panther. You have that Kendrick Lamar coming in.
Hmm.
It, you know what I'm saying?
Hmm.
It comes in like a producer did that. A music producer did that. You know what I'm
Mm.
saying? So a lot of background music. You hear background music on phone calls when you're waiting. You
That's
hear
true.
you
That's
hear
true.
background music, not as much now, but on elevators you used to hear that kind of in the same way you would in the phone. You hear it in stores. You hear it. Obviously, the more familiar way is if you purchase someone's project, you hear it that way. YouTube videos, commercials. It's like
Mhm.
everywhere. You know what I'm saying?
Mm.
The main thing is to be good at it, first of all.
Right, right.
And again, that's subjective because
Relative, right,
yeah,
right.
I've heard not good stuff being the background music on phone calls. I'm like, y'all chose this. Come
Oh,
on.
that is hilarious.
So, but yeah, and I want to make sure I stick with your question because I kind of veered off.
No, no,
What?
it's cool. I mean, it's just because what I'm thinking about is just making me think like, again, musicians is just another type of entrepreneur, but it makes me think like you got to be proactive
Right,
and you got to be creative, like the Creative Are You podcast, right? Like you
right,
got to think outside the box because what you're basically saying is that there's so many opportunities out there.
Right.
It's like, how am I, right, taking advantage and connecting with the opportunities that are provided for me? There's millions of stores. There's stores who are just local in my community. There's stores in my community who want to promote themselves as the local store. Why you
Right.
the local store, but you playing non-local music? You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
you know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like, let's collab together, right? What, I don't know what you paying these people to play in the store, but let's collab. We can even do some live programming. With, I mean, there's so much things that you could do that you
Right.
just got to think outside the box. I'm not even thinking about scores of movies, but you're right. Somebody doing the scores of movie, and these
Yeah.
movies is $1 million movies, so somebody probably getting
Million.
paid a
Exactly.
lot of money to do the score for these movies, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's very relationship heavy though. Like you
Mm,
you you got to be on it with your networking. Like if you're not reaching out to these um uh music libraries
mm,
that facilitate that help to curate the music for each movie or sitcom
mm,
or series, you got to reach out through email and you got to be consistent and you have to do it at the right time. Like it can't, there's a science to that, and you develop a relationship with these places, which I'm in the process of doing that. But that's when residuals come in play, and every time,
Publishing,
yeah, when that
yeah.
commercial is run, you produce that song once, and every time that commercial is
Mm.
run, you're getting paid. You know what I'm saying?
Wow,
So
that's a
so that's
whole different thing I ain't even
yeah,
think about either.
yeah, and
Commercials and
yeah.
commercial music.
Yeah, and I'm not being compensated for that yet, but I have, I do have a list of instrumental music that I lease out. Again, I produced it once, and then I've had a couple of times, I see this PayPal notification. Someone just someone just purchased your track, from
Right,
BeatStars,
right,
and I
right.
that's a pretty good feeling. And I'll say it's sort of like this. Sometimes it is according to the trend,
Mhm,
even though I don't think, I mean, music is according to trend, but it may be based on what's popular, what kind of music is popular at that time.
mhm,
There was a time when classical music, that's just what it was. So these classical composers made a really like awesome living at,
mhm,
like, relative to what the dollar was worth at that
mhm.
time.
Right.
I mean, they were rich, they were wealthy, like, because to compose a piece for a 30-piece orchestra to play,
Hmm.
like, you had to know how to write it and direct it. And so it was like
Mm,
that was just a huge role. Almost similar to when books graduated from scrolls, like, you know, when they were
right,
no
right, right,
yeah, when they were no longer scrolls, and then books, like actual pages,
right. And start
to
getting binded, right.
yeah, to the person that wrote, because books were originally handwritten.
Mhm,
Obvious, I mean, that's like the obvious thing, but they were handwritten and they were page by page, and not many people had books.
right,
They had scrolls.
right.
So to have a book written, you got paid a pretty penny to
Mm,
actually have that done, and very few people had books in their house. And then
mhm.
that's when the printing press was invented, and then that
Right.
sped it up, and then that took away the scribe position to actually write a book. But um, yeah, man. But yeah, with music, it's really about getting tapped into. Yeah, it's very relationship heavy. Like,
Hmm,
who are you in relationship with, and are you consistent? Because it's not like this thing that you can just show up and people just trust you. You got to have some staying power. You have to be trusted and things like that. You got to be good at it. They got to like what you have, basically.
Thanks for watching the Lion and Lambo podcast. We hope this clip has been a huge blessing to you. And we want to remind you that we drop new videos, new podcast episodes every Sunday at 9 o'clock. You can find the full episode by clicking the card up at the top right of this video. If you prefer an audio only experience, then we want to let you know that we're streaming through every major podcast streaming platform. For the full list, you can go to www.lionandthelambo.com. Until next time, go impact the world.